Take a pit stop for all things NASCAR with the Four Tire Change podcast. Here is your host, Dawson Iserloh.
Four Tire Change podcast is back. Appreciate all the support we got on our season opening episode featuring the driver of the number one Chevrolet, Ross Chastain. We got to make season picks today because it's our Daytona 500 preview, but it's also, in a way, our season preview here on the pod. So we're going to go round of 16 down to the championship 4, an exercise that, look, we know we're going to get plenty wrong on. It's an interesting year. A lot of new drivers in new places ride-wise, and I think that made my picks more difficult than in recent memory. Like, usually you fill out the 16 playoff drivers and you're sitting there going, man, I got a couple more I wanted to put in. This year, it wasn't like it was, I can't see this guy making the playoffs, but I found, I got to 14 and I was like, man, who else do I want to throw in here? So without further ado, let's get into it. Reminder, we'll have episodes all year long, every week, recapping races, getting you caught up with all the latest in the NASCAR Cup Series. Of course, the running order is now set. Chase Briscoe, congratulations, he won the pole. The duels last night, little controversy in duel number 2. Bubba Wallace won duel number 1, but the second duel looked like it was won by Eric Jones, and turns out it wasn't won by Eric Jones. So all things considered, it's going to be an interesting 500. Hopefully the rain holds off. It's looking like maybe a delay, but maybe a night race. Get things in on Sunday. Maybe things change. Maybe we end up having clear skies. Hopefully that is the case, but I'm excited to see what happens. The duels last night, just kind of finishing a thought on that. Justin Allgaier gets in for Junior Motorsports. I'm a Justin Allgaier guy, so that was awesome to see. To see Junior so emotional about it, too, I thought was really cool. And he had to make some moves to get past the 44. J.J. Yeley put up a good fight. We know Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson qualified in on speed. And then in the second duel, again, kind of going back and forth there, who's going to be in? Corey LaJoie ends up winning out, so he has also moved on to the 500. We will have a 41-car field because that means Helio Castroneves will be in as the provisional. Let's go ahead and do these playoff picks for the year, and then we'll get into the 500 specifically. My playoff drivers this year, I have Blaney, Byron, Larson, Bell, Hamlin, Elliott, Reddick, Keselowski, maybe a little bit of a surprise pick to have him as high as I do, Chastain, Logano, Buescher, Briscoe, SVG, I have in there as well, Bowman, Cindric, and Bubba Wallace. That's my 16. I guess the ones that are worth pointing out here, Bubba was my last in the field here. I don't think we're going to get 16 winners this year. I think you're going to, again, see a little bit of an increase in the power teams starting to find their speed now that they have a couple of years of data here with the next-gen car. Bubba was a guy who I figure might get in on points. I think he's one of those spots. I think he's going to be consistent enough. Does he win a race? I'm not sure. I think he gets in on points. The rest of these drivers, in theory, the SVG pick is strictly about thinking he's going to win a road course. I don't think he's going to have the consistency on the ovals to make it top 16. But you give him a handful of chances at those road course races, and he's already shown you what he can do. Now he's going to have more experience in the Cup car, doing it every week. I've got him winning at some point this season, so that's why he's in. Bowman, I think, gets in on points if he doesn't win a race. And Austin Cindric, another one who's got a good chance to win, but I think also has shown you a lot of consistency. The rest of the drivers on here, I'm pretty much saying I think will win a race at some point. And so that's my 16. When you get down to the round of 12, I'll go with the guys who are going to be eliminated in round 1. SVG, I think, pretty confidently. I think his great run will end there. Bubba, Cindric, two of the ones that I had as the last guys in. And I also say Buescher. I have Bowman here lower in the overall standings in the regular season, but still moving on to the second round. I think it just comes down to consistency, right? And I think Bubba has struggled with that at times. I think SVG certainly is going to struggle with that in year 1. Buescher's the interesting one, man. I don't know. RFK's shown you so much promise towards the end of seasons in the past. That's why I have Keselowski pretty comfortably in the playoffs. It's why I have Buescher in there as well. But at this point, it's tough to trim it down to the round of 12, and he's one that I just had on the outside looking in. Second round exits. So before we get to the round of 8, the guys I have not moving on are Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Chase Briscoe, and Alex Bowman. Look, Logano, I think last year's run to the title was incredible, so maybe he proves me wrong and he shows you up with that playoff speed. I feel like it's maybe set for a little bad luck in the playoffs come this time, so I still have him moving past the first round, but I think that's where the luck runs out. Look, Brad Keselowski's struggled to get into the playoffs each of the last few seasons, right? And we know how difficult the transition to ownership has been at RFK. I have him getting in. I have him making it through the first round, and I think maybe it's a sigh of relief once they do that. and maybe their luck runs out in the second round. Alex Bowman, look, he was so solid last year, and I think he doesn't get enough credit for it. I know they had some bad luck with the penalty stuff. I think he's going to have another good year, but at the end of the day, is he going to be good enough to move past and beat some of his teammates and or some of those Gibbs cars? You even have a 2311 car that I feel pretty strongly about. I'm not sure. So I have his running there. And Chase Briscoe, first year in a Gibbs car. Like, how's he going to handle this? I considered not having Briscoe in the playoffs at all. Ultimately, I came around. Maybe it's a little recency bias as he wins the pole at Daytona, just feeling good about the vibes. But I think Briscoe gets eliminated going into the round of 8. So that means your round of 8 drivers: Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Ross Chastain. Friend of the show, right? Had to throw Chastain in the round of 8. I do have his run ending in the round of 8, though. It's a big year for Trackhouse. You know, you bring on SVG. You have a guy like Daniel Suarez, who I did not have in the playoffs, but certainly he made a nice run last year to win a race, and some think save his ride. I think Chastain carries that momentum, especially if you figure SVG gets eliminated. You always wonder if there's one car left on a team, can they kind of pool those resources together? But I have him getting eliminated just before the championship 4. Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, both really, they could be, but again, I just had to go with the guys who I think are going to be there in the end. I have them both being eliminated, and my last car out before the championship 4 round is William Byron, who I think has every opportunity to win the championship, but at this point, you got to make picks, and I made one there. That means my championship 4 is Blaney, Larson, Bell, and Hamlin. A lot of familiar names, a lot of familiar guys who have been there in recent memory. I guess I'm just going to try and talk this Denny Hamlin championship into existence. I've been doing it for a couple of years now. It just feels like at some point it has to happen. I know it was a bit of a drama-filled offseason for him, so maybe you figure that took away from the preparation a little bit. I don't know. I think maybe finally the stars align. I have my champion being Denny Hamlin. My regular season champion, by the way, I probably should have went this off the top. I have Ryan Blaney as my regular season champion, just beating out William Byron. But I do have Denny Hamlin as my playoff champ. Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, the rest of my playoff 4. I think, look, Larson, any year he's in it, he's got a shot. Christopher Bell's another one I think is going to break through at some point really soon and be a NASCAR Cup Series champ. But why not give it to the guy who's still fighting to get that first this late in the career? I've got Denny Hamlin winning this thing. I know those picks probably won't age well. Maybe we'll revisit them at some point. But for now, that's what I'm rocking with. As for the 500 on Sunday, I already kind of set it up for you, the open cars that got in. You've got Truex and Jimmy who got in on speed. Allgaier and LaJoie got in on the duels. Elio Castroneves in on the controversial provisional made for world-class drivers. I know he wrecked out of his duel last night. There's a lot of people talking about it on social media. My view of it is, look, I like the twist or the added caveat that he doesn't win prize money now if he wherever he finishes. Although I don't know, is that enough? Like, you're talking about giving somebody a spot to the 500, and you think about how much J.J. Yaley grinded last night with his team, a small team that's just trying to find their way into the field. And, now you're encouraging, instead of a NASCAR lifer like J.J. Yaley getting that chance, if they want to go out and bring in a world-class driver in the future and they'd have this provisional sitting there, I don't know. It's interesting they're going to go to a 41-car field. This provisional did not take a spot away from someone else. So in that way, I guess it's even more acceptable. I don't have as strong opinion as plenty do on it, but it is a little bit strange how they're making this. But hey, you know what? Castroneves is going to get a shot out there. The Project 91 car has been a really, really good thing. Ross was on the pod talking the other day about the investment that Justin Marks made when he brought SVG to Chicago. The investment they made in Project 91's worked really well as well. And I know some of that worked hand in hand there. That was why he was there in the first place. But all that being said, it's going to be interesting to see what Castroneves does. LaJoie and Allgaier in on the duels, man. That's why the duels are still fun to me. I know some people aren't the biggest fans of them. I hope we get to the point where, and look, I have mixed feelings about all the charters being locked in automatically. I know that's how, it's the franchise system. Maybe for the 500, you go back to a 43-car field if you have this much interest, right? And if you get to the point, I was going to say, I'd love it to get back to the point where we have 50-plus cars in line to try to make this thing. And maybe at that point you say, all right, the 500 will be a 43-car field, the other races will be a 40-car field. I'd be fine with that as well. Like, I don't think that's really much of a problem. We did 43 cars for however many decades. But it was cool to have that element back where it's like, hey, there's a lot of guys that aren't going to make it, and you better be on your A game both in qualifying and or in the duels. And so to see Allgaier make that move there, to see LaJoie survive his duel as well, I thought was pretty cool. So, who do I got winning this thing? It's interesting too, right? Who's going to be able to handle maybe the adversity of a day where the schedule's not normal and you're going to meet. Maybe you get geared up. Maybe they think they have a window to get this thing started, and then maybe the rain comes down and you got to sit in the hauler for a few hours. That's interesting to me. That to me maybe lends itself to a veteran driver getting the job done here. Maybe somebody who's been there before. I didn't have Kyle Busch in my playoffs, by the way, which is worth mentioning right now. And I know this is his 20th shot. You kind of bring the parallels to Dale Earnhardt. So that's going to be a popular storyline if he's up and around the front. And there's certainly a good chance that he will be. Another name that I think just keeps coming up for me is somebody who, look, he ran first in the duel last night. What a big win this would be for his career is Bubba Wallace. And he's one of those super speedway drivers that clearly knows what he's doing. Super speedway, I say. I know it's a little bit of an outdated term there. I'm not going to use the term drafting track, though. He's one that's going to be up there at some point. Does he get collected in a wreck? That's always a possibility, but it's really hard to imagine the 23 car not finding its way to the front at some point in this race. We've just seen it too many times with him at these types of tracks. But maybe I go with somebody who has more experience at these places than most, has also proven that he's not going to hold back. He's going to do anything it takes to win the race. My pick to win the Daytona 500 is Brad Keselowski. I have him in the playoffs. I think maybe Brad wins multiple races this year. Maybe he grabs himself a super speedway win and one of the other circuits on the schedule this year. I got Brad Keselowski winning the 500 in the number 6 car. It'd be a huge moment for RFK. It'd be a huge moment for Brad. I imagine a scene of vindication based on everything he's undergone starting this team or joining this team and collecting an ownership role. Maybe Brad K gets it done on Sunday. Hopefully, this race is run on Sunday and we don't have to worry about a Monday 500. That's the hope. Excited for the season. Can't wait to watch it on Fox. And, can't wait to watch the Truck Series tonight and the Xfinity Series tomorrow. It should be really, really cool. So that'll do it for the 4-tire change all season long. We're going to be locked and loaded here on the podcast. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know who you think is going to win the Daytona 500, and we'll see how many of you get it right. But we'll be back next week. Of course, it'll be our Daytona 500 recap. We'll be moving forward to Atlanta. So keep it locked in here on the ESPN SWLA YouTube channel all year long. Dawson Iserloh signing out for now.